Just the first part. I can
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Jason. Okay, so
Yeah, and he was like,
all right.
I almost went to jail.
Call the meeting to order. 5 o'clock. We'll welcome visitors and have a pledge of allegiance. So please stand. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by reading the district mission statement. If we could have a volunteer.
I will be able to do it as soon as I can figure out this board book here. Give me just a minute. I thought it was where I needed to be, but I guess not.
The internet seems to be going slow too.
There we go. Lakeland's Joint School District's daily mission is to maximize student learning and ensure every student is growing academically, social, emotionally, and behaviorally every day in all environments.
Thank you, Debbie. Okay, so let's start the board workshop. Mid-level alignment.
Okay.
Ready?
Ms. Sexton is on here, still recording and everything, but she has some symptoms that she wants to just be careful about. Okay. So our middle school alignment completion, one of the board goals was to look at this year and quite possibly everything finished the completion of all the middle level alignment by next fall. So we are presenting information. Also, I would like to introduce Carrie Murphy, is the principal at Lakeland Junior High School, and Mr. McDougal is the principal at Timberlake Junior High School.
She can't help but call me hard.
I know.
So I was like, okay, wait, what's his name again? Okay, so myself and Ms. Sexton and Mr. Wallace are presenting. The considerations we'd like to bring to the board's attention are the space, the district's consistency throughout the district, curriculum alignment, and different educational opportunities for our 6th graders, and the adolescent research and parental feedback. And then there'll be time for questions at the end. So the first one is Mr. Wallace with space.
So, one of the, factors that a lot of districts look at when they're looking at what grade configuration they have, whether it's a K-8, or a K-5 and 6/8, or what we have, or, there's different variations, are really the physical space of what you have and what you own. And sometimes that helps drive the decisions because you need, the classrooms for the kids. So, the first thing that if we did move, we sort of transitioned a little bit towards a K-5, 6, 8. But if we did that across the board, it would help the elementary schools. And when we did our last long-range planning and gathered a lot of the data and looked at projections by grade span of where we had the least space, the elementary schools were our most full schools. This year with COVID and the very strange year of 2020, that's maybe a little bit less of the case because of Lakeland Online and all that. But if you really look, let's take that equation. It's not going to be here forever. That's where we're most space challenged. Especially in Spirit Lake, we were running music in the gym last year. They were dead out of space. Betty Kiefer is, is a very big elementary school, especially for us. But for a K-6, they were a pretty full building. Athol was feeling the pain too. So, but if we did move, completed a 6/8, then that, a bonus would be freeing up some space, in our 6 elementary schools. But then the question is, do we have room in our other 2 schools? Right. So at Lakeland Junior High, it is that older building, but it's a pretty big building. It has the square footage and has enough space that if we wanted to move and do that, We talked with Ms. Murphy and looked at what's there. We could have the room and they have the available classroom space. Even right now, we're using some of that school for non-instructional programs where we have some special education staff who support there that are, they're using space almost like we're an office space. We have technology there. So there's capacity in that building, so we can make it work there. Timberlake Junior High School, really square footage wise is not a huge building. It's a nice building, but it's not a huge building. That's where we'd be space challenged. We definitely, if we added more sixth graders, and Mr. McDougall could speak to it, we probably need at least 2 more classrooms. So with that, where would that happen? Well, immediately if we're gonna do it in September, our option really would be modular classrooms. Even if we had the dollars to expand, this building just, has designed a lot of schools. You could certainly expand just, physically. You could build classrooms off this wing. The architects sort of, when they make buildings, they sort of think, and we've done that to some of our elementary schools and the high schools we built onto. So, but we wouldn't have obviously time to do that by next September. So modular buildings would definitely be able to do it. Where would we place them? It'd either be A or B. We looked at one aspect of that A on the blacktop. The advantage of it, it's already a hard surface. You can literally place it there. There's really little site prep work except for getting power there and data, as far as internet. It's sort of in the lower left-hand corner there. Mr. Ferrarola met with the fire chief at Spirit Lake because there's fire codes. This is a fire lane. The gate opens, and so you have to have a fire lane all around the building per code. So we can't, we couldn't block off up here. And you also have to be set back at least 20 feet from the building per fire code. Because if you're going to put a new building in for kids, fire code is you have to have a fire suppression system, sprinklers. Modular classrooms, that's not required as long as they're 20 feet from the building, the primary building. So really, it would have to be that back left. The other space would be here, where I have B, would be our second choice. The disadvantage of B is we'd have to do a little more site work. We'd have to take out the grass. We'd have to get some gravel in there and get it compacted to be a firm surface at a certain pounds per square feet that is required for the modular building, and probably have to put in a sidewalk, which that wouldn't be too expensive. But you would have to do that additional site work. The advantage of B was if we ever got to the point, and maybe we're there now, I don't know, that'd be more of talking to Mr. McDougall and Ms. Sexton and Dr. Meyer, and I could help, I guess, with some projections and numbers if we needed a second portable. We have space here. I'm not sure because of the fire lane if we'd have space on the left of the building. Since we have to bring in power separately, Avista would bring in a new service just for those buildings. We can make it work on either location, but I don't really want to have to bring it in twice. So if we had it in one spot and we were going to put 2, I'd sort of recommend, well, let's just go here. But we're going to have to decide that tonight. I just want to get the board some space options. There is a door right here, so the kids would be here and they could go right into the building here. Here, there's doors in the gym. I doubt they'd use that. They'd probably go around. It is covered here and go through this way into the building for restrooms because the portables would not have water. They'd be dry. And I guess, go ahead.
How far is the restroom if they're placed in?
Well, Mr. McDougall.
Well, either one, especially A, you're gonna have to go to, as far as calculating feet, you have to go out to the front, go down, and then there's the gym
Okay.
door. And
You
then
can come
right
up
inside
and
the
point,
gym.
can you come up and point at it,
Yeah.
Starling?
So if we went this one, they would come up here, and then there's the gym door right here,
Uh-huh.
and then the bathrooms are like right inside the hall.
Okay.
This one, they would have to go all the way down, like through these doors, and that's like right in here.
Okay. So
Inside.
roughly it's the same.
Yeah.
Regardless of where we sit. Okay.
I haven't asked you that, but do you have a preference when you were talking with Mike and Brian?
The first, I'm in agreement with Brian, this one would probably be best for now, just again, for prep and then going in and out of that door. It's not ideal right now, so this would probably be better.
Okay.
Just put more of that.
if you were to do A and you needed to add a second building, is there any way to strategically place A so you could put a second one like in line with it?
Yeah, I think we would talk with the city, and say, and get, obviously my boxes aren't to scale.
Oh, sure, it's just kind of
No, I'm not
a
going to
good
make a
idea.
joke.
Yeah.
Right, so that I think we would talk to them to see, maybe even could we go back this way? Possibly,
Mhm.
because they're obviously gonna drive in and come this way now for the fire lane, so it might even work that way. So I think we could definitely look at that. Just some time, we didn't really map it out, but I think
Sure.
but when we're getting into permitting and get to the point and say, if we had a second one here, would that be okay? And if they gave us a verbal, then that might work out.
So taking that what is that blacktop used for now? So what's that gonna be taken away from, I guess is my question.
Basically, it's a 30-minute lunch period, well, depending on how many grade levels we have, but it's a 30-minute lunch where, and by the time we get out and are on the blacktop, it's maybe 15, 20 minutes where they're, utilizing it to shoot baskets and things like that. So it has 4 hoops on it. One of them actually needs to be removed because it's falling over. So they'll have 3 hoops there. That portable goes in there, they still would probably have access to 2 of them.
Oh, okay, which they're only using 2 now anyway, because the other one isn't.
Yeah, as long as we have those back far enough,
Okay,
it should be good.
all right. Well, it seems like A makes the most sense because you don't have to do all that excavation
Yeah.
to get B to work, especially if you could fit 2 there. I'm just thinking out loud is what I'm doing. So I mean.
Yeah, my first initial thoughts were A was preferable, for sure. But we, not knowing exactly the 2. So we are, always look at contingencies in case you need it, but.
What are the drawbacks to A?
I would say the biggest drawbacks, just because if you're here and your second one was there, then that's a longer walk for kids getting into the building later down the future.
Okay.
Especially in the winter, if it's just sort of, sloppy and wet and stuff like that. But certainly.
Snow removal maybe?
Yeah,
You're
you
gonna
have to.
add snow removal to that now, right?
Well, yeah, they'd have to be plowing that for sure.
Yeah.
Actually, in fact, they were up there today, they have a crew that actually, they do plow that.
It's already done?
There's just
Okay.
a kicker would be to maintain, like, depending on how much snow's coming down, to maintain that path that can get them underneath and go out front to get back to
Sure.
the door. So
Right.
it would, and actually Mike and I talked about that today, just, extra help with custodial or something during the main part of the day.
There might have to be where we dedicate either existing maintenance or custodial staff for that, or maybe you have to hire a little bit extra for it, but those are some of the have-tos, that you have to do sometimes.
Well, sure, yeah. I'm just, I like to think about all of the
Yeah, no, it's good.
benefits and drawbacks. And the fire trucks can easily get around it even if there is 2.
Oh, yeah, there'd be a lot of,
Okay,
well, I'm from here, I don't know, because the gate's right here, but if it's back this way, yeah, I'm sure they'd be fine, because they'd be coming here and then just screwing by, and that's a pretty big
Mhm.
gap.
Okay. What are the go ahead, Ramona.
I was gonna say, I'm sure the fire marshal would figure all that out anyways. He would be the one telling us what we could and couldn't do. But where are the students coming from that we're moving to?
That's in the next,
Oh, okay.
after the next.
Okay,
So how big are these buildings that you're?
They're approximately 60 feet by, what did I pace off, 30,
30, I think.
about 30 by maybe 28 by 60 or so.
And how many classrooms would that?
It's 2 classrooms, each classroom's about 800 square feet, 792 I think is the dimensions, which is a little bit small. A regular classroom like at Lakeland Junior High is probably about 900 square feet. So they are a little smaller, but definitely be the same size. For example, Canfield Middle School, they're not there anymore, but they had, until they renovated that building, they had portables there for years. And they're the same size. So it definitely can work for middle school kids, but they're a little bit small. The rooms, once you're in, they're not bad. They have air conditioning and, but it's a portal.
I see that's Blackwell Boulevard. Is that the street, or I know it's not technically a street, but is that like the drive that connects the junior high and the senior high? That road that's right there with that little patch of parking right there?
Right here?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you can get there that way.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, so that's not a designated street, that's just the connection between the
Correct.
two. Okay, I just needed to get my bearings, so.
Okay.
And the Tiger Street is like right here. It comes from 10th.
Okay,
Comes in.
okay, thank you.
Okay. So district consistency, how do we maintain the consistency in the district? To answer your question, and we can get more data as well. This is just to show you, last year in 2019, 2020, these were the size of the grade, the 6th grades. I just thought you should look at that. And then that was the enrollment at Timberlake and Lakeland. With those
Out 6th grade.
without 6th grade, so that's, even though this says grade 6, they didn't have grade 6, but I wanted you to see what their enrollment was.
Okay.
And then this year, you can see Athol Elementary has 43, and even, they had a small 5th grade, both Twin and Athol had a small 5th grade. Athol's, it's not because of the COVID that the numbers way down, it's not because the 6th grade that graduated and went was a bigger class. So they only had 44 at the end of the year in 5th grade moving to 6th grade. So that's a pretty safe number because of growth up in Athol, which, you know, Trustee Grissom, you're familiar with, it may increase, but there's not like a low number right now based on COVID. And then Spirit Lake is at Timberlake Junior High School. Twin Lakes, we have 44. There was only 46 that were supposed to be moved up, so it's only down 2 there. So those are pretty stable numbers in this class moving up. And then you can see Garwood is at Lakeland Junior High School, John Brown is at Lakeland Junior High School, and Betty Kiefer is at Lakeland Junior High School. So that being said, you can see the total enrollment in those schools this year. And then where Timberlake Junior High School is at 352 and Lakeland as 609 this year. So next year, adding in those classes, we would be adding 1 class to Lakeland Junior High School. She has 6 teachers right now, she'd be going to 7. That average class size, if we just moved up our enrollment, would be 27.57, so it's right at a good number for 6th grade, even below what some of our others are in the district. And then moving in Twin Lakes, about 1/3 of the students move up to Timberlake Junior High School historically, and about 2/3 move down. And then going to Timberlake Junior High School, both Athol Elementaries and about 1/3 of the Twin, and then 2 teachers would move there. We have talked about it wouldn't be appropriate to put 6th grade in the portable if that is the decision of the board. The 6th grade would be clustered together with the current 2. There'd be 4 teachers at Timberlake Junior High School, and that would be right at 28, right over 28.2. 1-2 would be their class size. So they're both right around 28 if everybody moved up and we finished moving the middle level alignment.
Who would be utilizing the portables then?
Well, we've talked about it. It would be probably 8th graders because they're more mature and you do have to have some level of maturity to come out and go around and such.
Okay.
But that would really be up to the principal. If you might have other thoughts, but that's just.
We were thinking 8th grade.
Okay.
I don't know who wins the lottery on that or what yet, but.
Believe it or not, sometimes people want to be out there because there's air conditioning and there's a kind of little, you know, sense of autonomy, you know, I don't know. There are some benefits I've heard from teachers, but I'm not sure. So this is just showing you the enrollment picture. And I think just to make the point with district consistency, and Ms. Sexton is going to talk about it now, but there are 6th grade families that are feeling a little bit left out now because remember we had a Garwood at the last minute.
Right.
There are Twin families and Athol families that are saying like, we're ready. So I'm gonna let her address that, but I just think for consistency in the district, I think that's an important part.
All right, so I think I'm up next. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Sorry I'm not there with you. This is a little bit awkward, but I did want to participate in this workshop. So when we talk about curriculum alignment and educational opportunities, and I know we've talked about this just a little bit, but that grade band alignment, when you look at our state standards and the way textbooks are written, it's a K5, 6, 8, 9, 12 grade band. So what we're seeing this year with the 6 classes at Lakeland Junior High and the 2 at Timberlake Junior High is those teachers are really enjoying having the opportunity to collaborate with the 7th grade teachers about instruction and the curriculum that they're using. Our 6th grade teachers at Twin and Athol are not able to do that. So they're kind of an island in the elementary school. Subject acceleration is something our parents are really excited about. It offers us the opportunity for those bright kids who are ready to kind of accelerate a grade level in a particular subject to be able to do that, because we have access to teachers who teach that content. When they're at the elementary school, if you have just one child in 6th grade who's ready for 7th grade instruction, it's very difficult for that 6th grade teacher to find time to actually provide the instruction for that child. So definitely a benefit to having them at the junior high. And then lastly, they will have the opportunity to participate at some level in an elective rotation at the junior highs once we build them into the master schedule, which just really allows them to start to think about the things that excite them about learning and to be able to kind of dabble in some different areas as they start to build their 4-year plan as an 8th grader for high school, kind of knowing what their direction is and their trajectory through high school and then beyond. So those are just some positives with regard to the educational opportunities. Any questions about those before I go on? Okay. And then just kind of a little refresher with regard to adolescent research. So there is a psychological developmental stage that psychologists talk about for kids, and that stage ranges from ages 12 to 14, which is, those are our 6th through 8th graders. The research is showing that they do better social emotionally when they are together going through some of the same things that they're going through. You know, those are our kids who are navigating puberty, who are trying to figure out how to fit in with their peers, who are just trying to figure out who they are as people, solidifying their personal values. And there's just a lot of research that says they do better when they have others around them who are going through some of those same things. With the 6th graders in our elementary schools, they're kind of an island. And then the last big piece of research that really supports this middle level alignment is being in the junior high 3 years rather than 2 allows the kids more time to actually build an identity within the school, to build positive relationships with adults that are meaningful, that carry on through life. When I talk to parents about junior high and I ask them, you know, how many of you would say that your junior high years were the best years of your life? Nobody ever raises their hand, and there's a reason for that, because it's really, really, really hard in just 2 years to really feel like you've built those connections. So the 3rd year just gives them more of an opportunity to do that. As we made the decisions to move the 6th graders who are currently at the junior high up to the junior high, I met with parent groups at all 4 elementary schools. And I went to those meetings anticipating some angst and anticipating some concerns, because I've just been in the district a long time, and for a very long time when this conversation came up, our parents were adamantly opposed to any change in the alignment. They liked having their 6th graders at the elementary school. So I went to those meetings prepared and was surprised at all 4 of them that there wasn't a single parent who voiced any concerns. They asked some really good questions. One of the things that they shared was that they really appreciate our intentionality with regard to how we're keeping the 6th graders kind of together within the building, and they have their own schedule, so they're not necessarily passing periods are not at the same time as 7th and 8th graders, just to provide a really nice transition into that middle level. Parents are very excited about the academic possibilities at the junior high, and we're even more excited about the extracurricular opportunities. So the sixth graders this year at the junior high are only getting to participate cross country and track because the kids who are at the sixth graders at Twin Lakes and Athol have cross country and track, although I'm not sure we're doing that in this COVID year. But we didn't allow them to participate in any others because we didn't feel it was fair to the sixth graders who were not yet at the junior high. So next year, if we make the decision to make this move, all of the opportunity to participate in extracurricular activities, just like our Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls neighbors are. And then I have
Please, you cut out, and so we didn't hear exactly what you said when you said, once all of the sixth graders, if the decision is made for all the sixth graders to incorporate, then we didn't hear anything else after that.
Thank you, Trustee Majors. It would, once they're all at the junior high, then they will be able to participate in any junior high extracurricular activity because now there's equitable access for all sixth graders in the district if we move them.
Thank you.
And the other thing she said is Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls, they have sixth grade participating in that, so they have competition close, which is good for junior high kids or middle level kids.
Yes. Yes. And then I have a quote there from one of our absolutely fabulous sixth grade teachers who happens to be at Timberlake Junior High this year. And she came to us from a different district and she taught sixth grade at the middle level. And then she was at the elementary here and then moved up with her kids. So you can see her thoughts about the transition of sixth graders up to the middle level. And then the next quote is from a parent of a sixth grader at Lakeland Junior High School. And you can see her positive comment.
Okay, the possible timeline that we're proposing is the next board meeting for December is December 8th. We'd like to have discussion and answer questions, also have follow-up if you need additional data or information to make that discussion. And then December 18th would be our ordering deadline if we are going to order a modular classroom that we would feel comfortable in. And January is when, after we get back from the Christmas break, is when Ms. Sexton would be doing parent nights, and one would rather do that as soon as possible after the holiday breaks instead of waiting until the spring if it is something that we're moving towards. You wanted to say something about the...
Well, for the modular, if we wanted to see what the costs are, I sort of recommend just posting a quick RFP and just get quotes from whoever responds and have. I think I could do it quick enough turnaround to have that information on the December 8th meeting with the quotes. So we're not asking the company to really do significant site work. We're just asking them to build it, deliver it. We would do the site work locally. We'll get a lot better price, or maintenance can do some of the work in-house also. And if we're putting on a laptop, then there's really just getting the power there. It will be significant work. And that's working with the Vista. So, it's a pretty straight, just, we want this standard classroom, give us your best price and delivery cost. And if we could have those quotes, and then, getting the quotes doesn't obligate us at all. That's up to the board to accept or reject any and all bids. So we can just have that information for you hopefully by that December 8th. And then if we decide to move forward, a lot of times the deadline for this is ordering in January. I think because of COVID and some factories have shut down, like our buses were delayed. I just think it'd be prudent that if we were going to order, the sooner just the better, because you just don't know some of those things that could happen with some delays in delivery.
Is it a possibility to purchase a used one?
If you could find one, I suppose. I mean, you do have to, anything that we have, if you have one available, you have to get a certificate of occupancy.
Sure.
So if someone local had one and things like that, you could get, generally, if you start getting some of those buildings and they're removed multiple times, they're not the happiest places on earth.
Sure, that makes sense. I just was thinking, what if a school had one and they were using it in the interim while they were building, and then they didn't need it
And
anymore?
sometimes when I was at Coeur Lane, we had modulars at Hayden Lake Elementary. We actually moved them to Atlas. We moved our own. It cost us $30,000 just to move, to get the cranes and stuff like that. That's not cheap. And we moved them there. And then I think they had modulars at Canfield. They were trying to sell. And, so sometimes it was there, but, that's like a 25-year-old modular.
Sure, that might not be worth it.
Right, but if you had a good deal that wasn't bad shape, sometimes you could save some dollars. Sometimes the companies might even have it used, and look at that. They also lease them. We didn't want to actually buy it with a lease, but if you have it after about 5 years, you paid for it, and then now you don't even own it. So there's a lot of options I could get. If we didn't want to look at flat out buying it, I could research other options. It's just how fast we can.
Lisa,
Certainly, any feedback from the board would be great. Sorry.
Lisa, can I ask you a question about the 6th grade transition that you were speaking of?
Yeah.
I kind of took from your words the implication that we're doing it just for this sect of 6th graders, or is it the intention to continually allow a transitional period for 6th graders, given that they're coming up from elementary? Because are we looking at in 2 years, 6th graders are introduced into the same system that 7th and 8th graders are?
No, we've talked, and emotionally and educationally, I think what my personal opinion about what is best in this situation is for that 6th grade year to kind of still have a homeroom type teacher.
Okay.
Because one of the criticisms elementary used to get from our junior high friends is that we kind of coddle our elementary kids, that we have them for 7 years, and
Right.
we would just wrap our arms around them, and then they go to the junior high and they're only there 2 years, and we might coddle them a little bit too much at the elementary level. And so this 6th grade year at the junior high allows them to maybe have an elective where they're moving to, and they're switching amongst their 6th grade classrooms like they would at the elementary school, but they're in the building. Maybe they have access to lockers, and so it's a really safe, easy transition into the junior high. And that's what the parents really appreciated when I talked to them as we moved the 4 schools up.
Models that we've been looking at are called modified blocks, where they have like maybe 2 or 3 periods are with their homeroom, but then they're able to flex out to electives. It allows both principals to have more electives to offer all students if the 6th grader in with the elective periods. So we did talk about a transition, and I've talked to both principals about, do we wait another year because Apple and Twin are coming in and we just keep them self-contained for another year, and then maybe look at it for the following year when we start to pull out for a couple of periods and do slowly, gradually going to the modified block instead of just overnight. So that's kind of our long range plan.
Okay, so then the transitioning period is just temporary.
Yes.
From what you're saying.
Yes.
Well, I guess we're probably saying the same thing, but saying it when we get everything kind of situated and all the 6th graders are up and they're participating in the electives like we just talked about, they're still kind of separate a little bit from the 7th and 8th graders, so that it's a nice transition year into the full junior high is how I'm looking at it.
So the 6th grades would essentially have most of their day is their own block, their homeroom, and they kind of interact. But once all the schools are integrated, then there will be an opportunity for them to take electives, which will give them some exposure to some of the other, maybe some 7th graders.
And that's what they call a modified box. So not all 6 periods are out, but they're like 3 with their homerooms. Yeah. But then Ms. Murphy, will you talk about now how you're doing flexing, which is already part of a modified block?
Yeah, so we kind of followed an elementary model when the 6th graders came to us, where most of our elementary, they will differentiate instruction in reading and math based on levels. And so they will select to different classroom teachers. So we have our sixth graders kind of in their own little wing with their own bathroom area and everything like that. So there's not a lot of interaction with our seventh and eighth graders. However, throughout their day, they do select to different math and ELA classes, also science and social studies, so that we can really differentiate for kids' needs and abilities. So they are, and it's nice because we build a community within our own building, because we have a lot of our classes already set before we added Garwood, and I wanted to be intentional not just to have like the junior high and 2 Garwood classrooms. So it's build that community too, where they get to interact with peers from all different schools and start to become their class of sixth graders together. So I would like, whether we move to electives yet, we're not quite doing an elective model like Dr. Meyer's talking about, but I still would wait another year, like to make sure we continue to use that flex model to build relationship. And it just helps, even if their homeroom teachers are the one they click with, they get an opportunity to meet some other teachers throughout their day where they might have a better relationship. That trusted is all that we talked about.
Okay, so based on your statement by saying you'd like to wait at least 1 more year, to me that kind of implies that at some point we won't be doing that at all. They'll just be being integrated into the.
So I guess what I mean by waiting 1 more year. So right now, with COVID, it's different, but typically we offer home ec, we offer PE, we offer a band class or a music class. We did not offer that this year. I think that decision is yet to be determined if we will do that next year or not.
Okay.
If we choose that that's best, that we start opening up our electives, we can make that work in our master schedule. If we decide, let's get the rest of Twin Lakes to us and to there, and then kind of get them ingrained in our system and then open up electives. So I do think eventually we will be moving to a point where we open up our electives to sixth graders. I just don't know if that will be next year or the following.
And I think, Michelle, I think it's just opening the electives. I think they'll still stay with their core.
Yes.
The expansion is the electives, to give them an opportunity to take a cut like the band or some other things that may not be.
And
But
that,
the core
okay,
would still be sixth graders.
okay, and that I understand. I just, because when you're at the 7th grade, then they're all just kind of commingled. And so I just want to ensure that at some point we're not just all of a sudden commingling everybody in the building.
I think we have
given that they're sixth graders.
maybe we will start something different, but keeping them in their own little wing and not commingling. It's just eliminated them from some junior high type behaviors that they're probably not ready to.
Right.
It's almost like a school inside of a school in a way.
It's different. They call it a modified block because you can allow the block piece, but then you keep them in their actual room.
Okay.
Would either of you like to add anything from your experience? I would like to personally, in the minutes, and make sure to let the board know, to publicly thank both of these principals. They both embraced this and said, how can we make this work? I mean, it is a lot if you think about your school and all of a sudden you're adding sixth grade and you weren't, and then all of a sudden Garwood at the last minute. They've both been very flexible, which is our word for the year. They've both been super flexible, but I think they just really, both of them embraced it and said, how do we make this work as a school? And if you go to any sort of learning walks of both of their spots, the sixth grade teachers are so happy where they are in the environment. I just get all the time feedback from staff. So thank you to both of you for being flexible and responsive.
And Dr. Meyer, can I just add one more little piece for the board? Once we made the decision to move Garwood, and we had the 4 schools up at the junior high, we did in the fall get several requests from Athol 6th grade parents to see if they could transfer their kids to Spirit Lake, which would then transfer them up to the junior high because they really wanted them there. So I do know that the parents at our other 2 schools, there is definitely interest in making that move.
Right. Has there been some consideration, because it sounds like in adding the 6th graders to the junior high, especially at Timberlake, the only salvageable option is, in a sense, a modular. What is the projection for building onto that building, or how long are we looking at doing the modular? And then, given that our community continues to grow all over the place, would it be more feasible and more flexible in just doing 2 modules right now to set that base up if the projection for building onto that building is 10 years down the road?
Yeah,
Not according to our long-range facility planning.
well,
Building
definitely,
their own.
right, well, definitely, I think, I agree that the need for more classroom space is going to be coming.
Right.
Some was going to delay a little bit with COVID, and we'll see how that plays out, but yeah, I think, that's
Right.
a need will come up. And that need may come up before we actually have, the resources to build on the building, because that, now we're talking major capital project.
Right.
And really need either a higher capital levy or a bond.
Okay.
And so in that, we're talking elections, and that would, it's a couple of years of work at best.
Okay.
So if we thought that, we definitely, for the cost we want to bring up to right away, we have the resources now in the plant facility fund, and we can make that work.
But we have higher, before we go down that, we could do another presentation, another workshop. We have higher needs right now in the district. Our roof matrix, I shared with the board in my goals, but there's a roof matrix, there's a flooring matrix, there's other things that are higher safety priorities that I would recommend we do before we add a second portable at this point. Knowing the cost of the portables, I believe that the board would be interested in seeing before we would go down that avenue. We would need to look at the other projects we have in line first before that.
I think our additional costs as far as like buying one now, and are we saving that much more? About two, and then one maybe next year. I don't think our costs will be that much different unless there's inflation on the portable. The electrical service that we're bringing in would be sufficient for the 4 classrooms. And then any of that work of getting the electrical service for the buildings is sort of nominal if we can get it on that blacktop. And even if you weren't, you're still going to do that cycle the next time. So you might have to save a little bit up or have a space extra the first year. I'm looking for all options, but I think that for the critical needs, 2 would probably get us by for the first year. And B, if we had that enrollment growth, and now you're looking at class sizes of 35 as opposed to 28, is when we'd be saying, oh, we need 2 more classes, or at least 1.
Okay.
COVID has to go away otherwise.
So I want to discuss a little bit, we've talked about all the benefits of this and how this is going to benefit. You know it's coming, you know me, I want to see both sides. So let's talk a little bit and have a discussion amongst ourselves about some of the downsides. When we were looking at that building from the first, just as a mom, my concern would be, how would my kid walk unsupervised back and forth in that building? Is somebody going to come and lure them? Are they going to, what I mean? I want to talk about all of this because I think that it's good to look at both sides of this.
Absolutely.
As well as, a 6th grader integrating, even if it is just for a period or 2, like you had discussed, that's going to expose them to some things that I'm not sure that they're ready to be exposed to. And, but yet, like we talked about earlier, like Ms. Sexton spoke about, it is a transition that is going to need to be made one way or another. So it is going to help them maybe to integrate a little bit earlier. But I'm just kind of wanting to have a little bit of a discussion amongst all of us about maybe some of the negatives, some of the drawbacks of this from a point of view of teacher, parent, and student.
I think we're sort of past all that. And I say that because everybody else has already moved. All the other elementaries have already moved. So we have these 2 elementary schools, these 2 6th grade classes that can't partake with the rest of their 6th grade peers. So I think that decision when we went through this last year was sort of already made. And you see what I'm saying? Everybody else has
That bell has already been rung. Yeah.
And this is where we are. So really to make it fair and to make sure that we keep moving forward with it, they need to move. And not only that, that the elementary schools are becoming overcrowded, right? Even though we're in the COVID, we already know there's building everywhere. We already know that there's the need for another elementary school. So I shared some of your concerns too, but we already went past that.
Okay, so I kind of missed that because I wasn't
But
here.
can I say that I do think we can address your second concern with exactly what Ms. Murphy said and Mr. McDougall and Lisa said, is that we can take our time as a school board and as principals, they're with them every day. And I've talked to Ms. Murphy several times about let's just take our time to roll this out. We don't need to jump into it. You know, Trustee Thompson was saying, does that mean that we can still keep that self-contained model for as long as we feel like it's important and that it's important to the patrons and parents of those kids and if the educational leaders of those buildings feel like that's what's best, they can slowly, like they can start with one period elective you get. Parents can opt out of that and say, parents could opt out and say, I'm gonna stay with my 6th grade because they're gonna offer a 6th grade elective and they stay with their 6th grade. I mean, that could be an option that we can look at. So we don't have to dive all in for sure. So that addresses your second concern.
Okay.
And, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Sorry. I just also, to address one of the things you brought up, Trustee Major, we've been talking about safety because, as you know, that's something that I'm leading the charge on. And we've been talking about what does it look like because our schools should have only one perimeter doors should be locked. So we have to address how do we safely get kids from the portable back into the school without keeping that door unlocked. So that's something that we will address, and we need to work with Mrs. Murphy or with Mr. McDougall. Mrs. Murphy won't have portables, but that we are definitely thinking through those things that you are talking about.
Well, she doesn't have a portable, but she actually has, if you haven't been a tour, Lakeland Junior, remember she does have the zone is out there, and then the band choir room is out there. So she does have, and they go under the patio, and now they've got a keyless entry pad thing. Yeah, that they can let them in with the video and stuff. So they've addressed some of that security there. And so we could do that where they go up and they push it, and then the admin assistant looks and makes sure it's a student and lets them in. But it still doesn't address, I don't know if either one of you want to address your initial concern with them walking unaccompanied. It would be 8th graders, but still that is an issue. That is.
Yeah, but where it's laid out, that's why I was asking about the roadways, because Module A faces where an active shooter could be. I'll just call it that way. I mean, you've got a road. I mean, granted, the active shooter could be anywhere around the perimeter, but I just don't like how that is just facing the road. I actually like B because it seems to be tucked away and it's not facing a road, but then it's got, you know, that other little jog around. That's just my own perspective though. I really prefer hiding it, so to speak, than putting it right out there in the open for anybody and everybody to take it as a target. That's my only concern. I mean, I realize that's an ideal location because of the asphalt. I just don't like it for where it is in proximity.
That is true for safety. B is hands down.
Did you hear that, Ms. Sexton?
Yep, and I agree 100%.
Yeah, even though it would take more prep and all of that, that's a really good point. It's a really good point.
Yeah. So.
It would be closer entry to your building, especially if you
Yeah,
had
to your
some
point.
sort of a keypad thing
Right.
in the back that they were able to access. That would definitely keep the snow removal too, would be a lot smaller.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's.
that actually, sorry, I almost interrupted. That is what we consider our 8th grade hall already. So it does lend itself to that as well.
Mr. Wallace, I know I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but how much you might know, and if not, we can find out how much would it cost to get that, you know, where you said with the granule and compacted for affordable or two.
You know, off the top of my head, I'm not sure. We got a quote last year or a year and a half ago from Sheets Landscaping for if we were going to do it at Spirit Lake and level there. And I thought it was $10,000 roughly. And what they would be doing is, I'm gonna be taking that out, really, I think it's 2,000 pounds per square foot is the standard we have to have. So you do it, you just sort of put in the gravel, get that and have a geotech engineer certify that it's correct. Then we would put a sidewalk. We'd get additional work there so that, for the kids, we don't want to be shoveling gravel
No.
or snowballing. So we would install a sidewalk. So this would be, the doors would be coming out this way, there'd be a ramp. Then if we had another portable here, it would be facing, and you'd have a ramp and you'd hit the same sidewalk and go. So that's what I told Mr. McDougal when we first talked about it, that he would have his compound back there. If we did that for the two.
And
So-
so that's where it would make, I'm so sorry, I
No, you're good.
interrupted. And since that's where it would make more sense for an addition, possibly when the excavation is being done, we could prepare that in such a way that when they're ready to build on, but then that does mean that when they're ready to build on, we'll have to have this moved again.
Yeah, but usually when you get the additional classroom space, it's a good day. I mean, modulars are used across the country and they can be effective when I use them, but having the building, being in-house is always better. So if you do expand the building and get rid of the modulars, it's usually a happy day.
Oh, I'm sure, I'm sure, yeah.
Especially up here. I mean, I dislike the idea of modulars up here. Just even if it's only for 3 months of the year, that the snow it's kind of miserable. But if if you put, I mean, we're in a position where we really can't do anything else. We need the space, and the building's set up so that the expansion could go on the other wing.
Yeah,
We
it
would
could.
add,
Yes.
4 classrooms.
And then we have our actual main electrical service comes in here. So to get another transformer into there would be
Really
pretty
good.
easy.
That's awesome. Would either of the two principals, would you like to add anything for the board? You don't feel on the spot, but if you wanted to add anything, this would be a great
The
time.
only thing I would say, and inspect and addressed it, is our biggest complaint is that our 6th graders are not allowed to participate in extracurricular activities. So I think when we move forward next year, that's got to be something we put on the forefront and allow that to happen.
Absolutely.
That's part of the plan, but that's what I hear the most feedback about.
Okay,
Yeah.
we hear you on that.
Well, we have the benefit of looking at this plan, of having some hindsight. that
Right.
It's been, from my understanding, a pretty successful year for the kids that have went there. The feedback from the parents,
Right.
and because it is still controlled, but it's a good transition, because they definitely, you get to 6th grade, and there's a separation between the 1st through 5th graders. I mean, they're going through, changes, some quicker than others, but.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to your point, Debbie, we have the benefit of some hindsight and seeing what this year has been. So, trying to lay, like Ramona said, that's kind of water under the bridge, because a good majority of the kids have gotten that transition already. So I think it's just kind of if it would have been a disaster, then it might have been a different conversation.
Right.
Well, there was a pilot before they ever even did the 6th grade that lives now at the junior highs. There was already the pilot that Dr. Meyer and Ms. Sexton talked about before we made that big move. My other question, I just have a couple, is what happens with the 6th grade teachers at the elementary school? And how does that transition take place, or does it? And also, how many classrooms do we gain at the elementary level with moving?
So we gained 4 classrooms, 2 at Apple, 2 at Twin. And then but we're only moving 3 teachers up. And the reason I mean, I won't say anything in particular, but I know that at Twin, there would be, it's going to be an application the same way we did it. Anyone in district can apply for these 3 open 6th grade positions, and then they both have interview teams. So it's not just a given that if you're a 6th grade teacher, because they're going to be possibly teaching other subjects. Eventually, they might teach a 7th grade science or 7th grade elective or whatever. So We did it as an application. It worked out wonderful. People felt like they had the opportunity, but they could stay at the elementary if they wanted. And there would be an opening at one of the schools for one of the 6th grade teachers would be able to go into a different grade level to teach. We already have retirements turned in that would allow for that to happen. So we aren't roofing anybody or cutting that at all. And then we get 4 classrooms, 2 at both elementary. So in follow-up, we'd like Mr. Wallace to do the RFP. Is there any other data questions, things that you would like, the board would like for us to follow up with and to send you before we come to the next board meeting? Was there anybody favor of wanting him to look at used? I kind of heard somebody ask about that.
Right, and I think that's, we did the RFP saying we're looking for, the cost of just start with one modular, delivered, we'll do the site prep. And then we have that, and then, of course, if we do that, we have to advertise in the quarterly press by law. Nobody's gonna see it in the quarterly press, so we'll call the vendors up who make these and say, hey, could you respond? But when we contact them too, to show them where the RFP is and that information will say, and if you have any gently used ones, could you give us a quote on those that what might be available or they're around? And that would be sort of outside, but it'd be good information to have.
Sure.
Maybe it's available.
I mean, if it's a couple thousand, not worth it. If it's maybe 15, 20, or it's
You might start thinking about it, it's a chunk of change. Right, exactly.
Anything else the board would like us to get together to give you prior to next board meeting?
Just cost, I think.
Okay. And if you think of anything else,
Timeline, like delivery, and if we had a somewhat of a timeline where we think, starting into the
Like
project.
when they got, if we gave them a purchase order by December, when would they?
Right.
When would they be delivered? Okay.
I do think it would be a good idea to just kind of get a ballpark on the site prep, because I think that the B is probably the better of the.
We'll look at that. We'll,
mean,
might follow up on that
yeah.
with, who we worked with last time, to at least get, a ballpark quotes.
At least it keeps the blacktop open.
yeah, for the,
Some activity.
that's what I.
Just need that extra basketball standard.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, principals, for coming, and thank you everyone in the public who listened to the board workshop. We appreciate it. So,
Yes.
I do want the modular to match our site.
yeah.
Well, yeah, we want it matching. It's
Gotta
gotta look
blend
good. It'd be nice if we could just make it invisible for safety reasons.
I'm saying what this does.
All right,
I'm
so,
just trying to find where these.
I'm gonna get what's out of our workshop meeting.